Hello, and I'm Ruthana, and I'm a director at TU-Automotive, and we're here today at Insurance Telematics Europe. And I'm here with Kurt Rowe, who is an associate solicitor at Weightmans. So welcome, Kurt.
Thank you very much. Pleased to be here.
Good. Well, happy to have you. So obviously you're a legal expert that we've got here today. So would you like to just express a little bit more about your role within the insurance, telematics or automotive field and interest at the moment?
Absolutely. I think experts probably been a little bit generous. Actually, in terms of background, I've actually spent the last 15 years working in insurance.
Right.
I actually worked for a very large international insurance company through their claims processes and actually as a legal counsel as well.
Okay.
So quite a bit of experience there. In terms of Weightmans, Weightmans are just a shameless self-promotion. Weightmans are a top 40 law firm based around the country. They're a very large firm with a heritage in insurance and commercial aspects of insurance as well. Not just commercial insurance, but actually data protection, contractuals, regulation, that sort of thing. So at Weightmans, we actually have a couple of different themes, and in particular, one of those themes is motor technology and telematics. Mm-hmm. And these are things that we see as providing a significant disruptor for the insurance industry going forward, some of our major clients. And what we're here to do is to actually analyse that disruption, to understand how our insurer clients can adapt to meet that disruption, and actually how we as a business can develop to make sure that we're relevant going forward.
Okay. So you speak there about disruptions. So would you like to share a little bit more on how you think these disruptions are gonna play out and what they are particularly?
Yeah, I probably have a bit of a different view to most of the people that are at the conference today, and I apologise for that. But at the moment, telematics is very small fry. Just heard in the conference main hall that there were 7 to 8 million telematics policies worldwide. In 2014, we had 296,000 of those in the UK, which is about 3.7%. So you're talking small fry. And the big debate that everybody's having is actually how do we get that into the mainstream? How do we sell more of these policies and get people to buy them? And actually, at the moment, it's not a significant disruptor.
Okay.
But it will become a disruptor as manufacturers start installing telematics devices into the vehicles. We're about 4 to 5 years away from having heads-up displays in our vehicles as well, which will provide automotive manufacturers, insurers, telematics providers the ability to send us stuff when we're driving, and the ability to add real added value. And people will hear from Kenny Leach, I believe, tomorrow. Yeah. On the future of telematics as he sees it. And Kenny's an excellent orator. And one of the things he always talks about is added value. Yeah. And that's the way you're going to actually get people to buy these products. And that's how it's going to disrupt the market, because insurers have to think less like an insurer, but more like a service provider. Okay.
So you mentioned earlier about claims and that we've had kind of a career in that so far in the insurers.
Yes.
And we've seen the kind of conversations here progress throughout the years, from R&D of products through to developing the products, the underwriting, the consumer marketing engagement. And this year, for the first time, well, more heavily, I guess, we're speaking about the use case of this data within claims.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think that's a bit of a minefield for a few people, So, from the legal perspective, how is that going to be rolled in? What's the nature of the use of data within claims?
Used. Yeah, it's already been used. I can think of a number of clients that we have that already use telematic technology, and we speak to them regularly about their experiences. And it's very good in terms of location data. Not necessarily claims, but more application fraud to begin with. Okay. Move on to claims in just a couple of seconds. Application fraud, quite simply, people are saying that they live in the safest place in the country when actually they live in probably the roughest place in the country. And the telematics technology allows the insurer to say, well, actually, you say that your car's at this postcode, but actually it's always at this postcode. So the risk is completely different. In terms of claims, again, that location technology is a really interesting factor. And I recall one client actually telling me that they received a call from a customer that allegedly been involved in an accident. They were disputing that they were even there. Well, the call operator was able to, in real time, in a matter of seconds, say, well actually, according to the telematic technology in your vehicle, you were there on that date, you were there on that time, and the rest of that information from the box also provided details of speed, so they could immediately see that there was a rapid deceleration before the vehicle stopped. And when it stopped, it was stationary for probably a good 5-10 minutes, which was an indicator that something had happened. Didn't tell you that an accident occurred. There was no data in terms of impact, but it certainly said that something had actually occurred. And by being able to relay that information back to the policyholder then admitted, okay, maybe an incident did occur, and that claim was then settled. And that's a really good thing, because for insurers, what do they get out of telematics technology? Well, it's about making the claims process slicker and quicker and more efficient. It's all about saving time and reducing the life cycle of claims. And in this particular instance, if it hadn't been for the telematics technology, on the basis of the policyholder's testimony alone, that case would probably have ended up in court.
Right, okay.
Would have been looking at a significant cost.
Yeah, well, and everybody wants to save that, don't they?
We do indeed.
So, do you foresee any kind of problems or roadblocks with using this data for claims going forward? I mean, what you've just described there seems a very simple proposition.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not the case, otherwise it wouldn't be a point of discussion. So, what are the areas that could cause legal implications of the negative type?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of debates, and if we stick with claims for the moment and go to the wider stuff a little bit later, when it comes to claims, you've got data. When it comes to court, and this is the difference, you can either have expert testimony or you can have witness statements. What is the data from the telematics box? At the moment, there's no such thing as a data expert. One might say that actuaries are data experts, but there wouldn't be a data expert in terms of telematics technology. So the difficulty is how you get that evidence into court and before a judge in a way that's reliable, consistent, and actually authoritative to the court. And that's difficult at the moment. There are a number of ways around it, and I've got a couple of ideas that I probably won't share because I like to keep that to myself. But there are a couple of ways that I think that you can introduce it, not necessarily as expert evidence, but as witness evidence, which reduces the burden, or rather the impression that the court has on the evidence, but it's still evidence nonetheless. I do think that's a big issue at the moment.
So how do you see that shaping up when it comes to consumer privacy, which has always been a point of conversation? So I think there was a case recently, something I read, that a gentleman had seen somebody driving erratically, and he had a camera on his dash. So he followed, submitted the data, submitted to police, and the driver he was following got prosecuted. The guy himself then ended up getting prosecuted for speeding, for trying to keep up.
Yep.
So that's, he was trying to do a good thing, and then data he generated actually negatively impacted him. And we're going to start hearing more and more stories like this, which is going to add an extra layer of concern for the consumer on kind of the privacy. It's not just where I was or, what happened. It's what scenario was I in that I was maybe doing something that would never have been found out if it wasn't for somebody else, and my data being used as witness, as you just mentioned. How do you see that one playing out?
Well, that's an amusing anecdotal piece, actually. And the driver that was the one that was reporting was clearly in the wrong. They were speeding to catch up with this person. So it doesn't really sit well for me to have one person driving erratically, somebody else driving erratically after them to try and get a little bit of evidence on a video.
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense. Law enforcement for the law enforcers, leave it to them. In terms of data privacy, that's a really big issue. There are lots of concerns in terms of how data will be used, and I think that there's a number of different ways that you would need to consider that. Firstly, you have the criminal aspect. So if you've been involved in an accident or if you've been caught speeding, would the police then be looking to your insurer to release the telematics technology to them? Well, if the police have a legitimate reason for obtaining that data and have followed the correct process to obtain that data, then there's no reason why that data shouldn't and couldn't be handed over. I don't think you'll have insurers handing that data over willy-nilly. They'll be expecting certainly court orders, one would suspect.
Right.
But I don't think they'll just be saying, yeah, here you go, everything that you want, it's
Okay.
there. So I think there's an element there. I'd maybe look at the commercial insured, actually. And the commercial insured has a bit of a different argument and a different issue, and that is that they have employees. And those employees are driving on the road. You have telematics technology in the vehicle, and that's relaying back to the fleet manager. And in a way, it's been used as a method of intelligent fleet management to allow the optimization of routes, the reduction of fuel costs, actually fraud. Is your driver where they say they are?
Yeah, exactly.
Not even the driver, actually. One of our clients is a commercial delivery company, and quite often they get complaints that the driver was never even where they were supposed to be.
Right.
So, where's my parcel? Your driver never turned up. Well, actually, the driver did turn up. He was there. And we've also got the dash cam showing him getting out with your parcel.
Right.
So, it's a very useful thing. But, actually, from an employment point of view, if you have evidence that your driver's driving badly, that there's a poor driving behaviour there, as an employer, you have a responsibility to provide a safe system of controls and a safe place of work for your employees. So you have to take issue with that. You could potentially end up going down a disciplinary route because of the data that you have. And again, in addition to that, accidents, you have the regulatory aspect, you have the health and safety executive, you have the police and other members of the public that will be coming to you with issues because of your driving, and the technology is there to back up what they're saying. So it could be quite difficult there too.
An interesting point you just raised there about obviously the disciplinary route. Let's say there's a situation of wrongful dismissal, and wrongful dismissal is claimed, and it's all based on the telematics data. I mean, what implications could that have down the value chain of having to substantiate and prove the quality, the authenticity, the accuracy of the systems of which are included, from the service provider down to even the chipset companies?
Well, I don't even think that's just limited to employment matters. I think that's across the piece, and for telematics to really be to rocket fuel for claims.
Yeah.
I'm using that phrase because that's the title of our talk tomorrow. It needs to develop. It needs to be much more accurate. It needs to provide a lot more data, and needs to be reliable. And if that data becomes more reliable, then you will find that there'll be more reliance upon it. From an employment point of view, at this point in time, is the technology good enough? I think it is.
Right.
At the moment, it does actually provide you with information such as deceleration, rapid deceleration, acceleration, cornering, location. So I do think that it is currently sufficient to be used in disciplinary proceedings, if of course an employer deems that appropriate. Okay,
well that's good to hear. I want to move on to a different topic area now that's a little bit removed from what we're talking about today, but very much still entrenched with kind of automotive technology and the legal side.
Yeah.
We start talking about the autonomous vehicle.
Yes.
And we start talking about who's responsible for what. Obviously a vehicle, or even a vehicle that's just very fitted out with lots of safety systems. If the safety system fails, or has the car not alerted the driver correctly to take control, an incident happens, there's so many questions about who's going to be liable, what the legality of all of these types of situations could be. I know this is a future-focused area here, but what are your current thoughts on that, or even how to start addressing this conundrum?
I think my thought is I need to get my court.
Right.
No, not at all, not at all. Actually, I was very privileged. Around about a month or two ago, I was invited down to Thatcham Automotive Research Centre, and I was put into a number of vehicles, and the people that I was with pointed me in the direction of basically a brick wall and said, hit it.
Oh gosh.
And not only just hit it, but also look away. Don't look at it as you hit it. And this was obviously demonstrating the benefits of autonomous emergency braking technology. And this stuff is fantastic. It really is. It hurt my shoulder. I'm not going to say, luckily. But it stopped the vehicle with such force that there was no way I could hit it, no matter how much I tried. I did try a couple of times.
Okay.
Even not paying attention. So actually, autonomous technology, from an insurance point of view, is brilliant. Certainly AEB, they think that's going to reduce shunt type claims, which are the major type of claim, by about 27%. Move on from that and we talk about the autonomous vehicle. And let's be clear, there are two different things that we're talking about here. The autonomous vehicle isn't the intelligent vehicle.
No.
So it's not the vehicle that we're going to be able to send off to pick our kids up from school, or after we've had too many sherbets down the local sweet shop, the car is not going to come and pick us up and take us home. So you've got the autonomous vehicle. At the moment, you have all around the world people looking at the regulations in terms of changing the rules to allow vehicles to be driven on their own. In the UK, we're quite lucky because our Road Traffic Act essentially says that so long as there's a driver on board, whether or not the vehicle is actually driving itself or not, doesn't matter. No. As long as that driver is ultimately in control, has the ability to take over when necessary. Correct. But you raise the interesting point. If that technology fails, and if we just use the autonomous emergency braking as an example, it's a great device. Fantastic device. It's going to save lives, it's going to save injuries, it's going to significantly reduce claims cost. But if you're actually supposed to be in control of that vehicle, do you rely upon that technology?
Well,
or are you still responsible for applying your brake?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Is how is that technology going to evolve, and when is the driver in control, and when is the car in control, and that education process, or the setting out what is what. I mean, is still a question.
You're absolutely right, and it's a very valid question. And if we talk about the autonomous vehicle as a whole, you're not going to have a need for motor insurance in the way that it currently is. I think everybody discusses, and all commentators say it's going to become like an airline liability policy, something like that. And that's all well and good. Ultimately, though, the way the law currently stands, and this is the way that I believe the law will remain, is the responsibility of the person taking that vehicle on the road to make sure that that vehicle is roadworthy. Right, okay. So it's that person's responsibility to meet any third-party damage claim. Whether or not they then have an action against the provider of the autonomous emergency braking technology, against the lane radar guidance technology is a completely different matter. So you'd have what they call contribution claims. Right. Really.
Okay. So still just a minefield, and still looking at the driver being in control.
Watch this space.
Yes.
The issue with the law, and I think this is really important, is that technology is rapidly developing quicker than we can adapt the law. Right. So we're playing a bit of catch up, but we will get there.
We're on the right way.
Absolutely.
On the right path.
Absolutely right.
All right, fantastic. Well, we've probably spoken for longer than we had time allotted for today, because such a fascinating topic of conversation, but we'll leave it there, and thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.